So organisms occupy a place in the natural surroundings, or in a community according to their feeding relationship with other organisms, right? Based on the source of their nutrition or food, organisms occupy a specific place in the food chain that is known as their trophic level. So producers belonging to the first trophic level, herbivorous, producers belonging to the first trophic level, that is herbivores, that is primary consumer to the second, and the carnivores, that is secondary consumer to the third, right? So diagrammatic representation of trophic levels in an ecosystem. So producer, then primary consumer, then secondary consumer, then tertiary consumer. So producers, that is first trophic level, that is plants, phytoplankton, grass, and then trees. Then primary consumer, that is second trophic level, herbivores, then zooplankton, grasshopper, and cow. Then secondary consumer, that is third trophic level, that is carnivorous, right? Then birds, fishes, and wolf. And tertiary consumer, that is fourth trophic level, that is top carnivores, that is man and lion. So these are the diagrammatic representation of trophic levels in an ecosystem. Okay, so phytoplankton, grass, and trees are at the producers, okay, first trophic level. Then second trophic level, that is herbivores, that is zooplankton, grasshopper, and cow. Zooplankton, grasshopper, and cow. Then birds, fishes, and wolves, right? Man, lion. The important point to note is that the amount of energy decreases at successive trophic levels. So when any organism dies, it is converted to detritus or dead biomass that serves as an energy source for decomposers. So organisms at each trophic level depend on those at the lower trophic level for their energy demands. So organisms at each trophic level depend on those at the lower trophic level for their energy demands. So each trophic level has a certain mass of living material at a particular time is called as standing crop. So each trophic level has a certain mass of living material at a particular time called as standing crop. The standing crop is measured as the mass of living organisms, that is biomass, or the number in a unit area. The standing crop is measured as the mass of living organisms, biomass, or the number in a unit area. So this is the standing crop, right? It can be measured in biomass or in number. Okay, so the biomass of a species is expressed in terms of fresh or dry weight. The measurement of biomass in terms of dry weight is more accurate. Why? Because it's not changing with the environment, right? The number of trophic levels in the grazing food chain is restricted as the transfer of energy follows 10% law. Only 10% of the energy is transferred to each trophic level from the lower trophic level. In nature, it is possible to have so many levels, that is producer, herbivore, primary carnivore, then secondary carnivore in the grazing food chain. So to have so many levels like producer, herbivores, then primary carnivores, then secondary carnivore in the grazing food chain. So do you think there is any limitation in a detritus food chain? Yeah, it is. The first trophic level producers that are the plants. You see, sun gives energy. Uh, so it also loses as heat, and then some captured by the plant. Then first trophic level produces, that is plants. Then second trophic level, that is primary consumers. Okay, these are the herbivores, say. And then earthworm, then bird, and then vulture. So plant, earthworm, bird, and then vulture, right? So bird is the second. So bird at third trophic level, that is secondary consumer, right? These are the carnivores. And then fourth trophic level, that is tertiary consumers, that is top carnivores. Fourth trophic level, that is tertiary consumers, that is top carnivores. Okay, so from earthworm to, so it releases at heat, right? So energy flow through different trophic levels. Okay, ecological pyramids. Now you must be familiar with the shape of a pyramid. The base of a pyramid is broad and it narrows towards the apex. One gets a similar shape whether you express the food or energy relationship between organisms at different trophic levels. This relationship is expressed in terms of number, biomass, energy. Okay, the base of each pyramid represents producers or the first trophic level, while the apex represents tertiary or top level consumer. Okay, base producers or the first trophic level, while the apex represents tertiary or top level consumers, right? The three types of ecological pyramids that are usually studied are pyramid of number, pyramid of biomass, and pyramid of energy, right? So you can see the number of individuals, right? Trophic level, that is producer, then primary consumer, secondary consumer, then tertiary consumer. The pyramid of numbers in a grassland ecosystem, only three top carnivores are supported in an ecosystem based on production of nearly 6 million plants. So you see at the producers, like there are like 6 million plants, right? And then primary consumers feed on them, then the secondary consumer, they feed on primary consumers, and then tertiary consumer feed on secondary consumer. So this is the pyramid of numbers in a grassland ecosystem. Okay, then pyramid of biomass shows a sharp decrease in biomass at higher trophic levels. So pyramid of biomass shows a sharp decrease in biomass at higher trophic level. It means like first is 800, then 37, then 11, then 1.5. It's sharp decrease in biomass. So producers, primary consumers, secondary consumers, and tertiary consumers. So this is it. Now the pyramid of biomass show. Okay, now the inverted pyramid of biomass, small standing crop of phytoplankton supports large standing crop of zooplankton. Okay, so producers, that is 4, and then primary consumers, that is zooplankton eating on the phytoplankton, these are 21. Now an ideal pyramid of energy, that is observe that primary producers convert only 1% of the energy in the sunlight available to them into NPP. An ideal pyramid of energy, it is upright and straight. Okay, observe that primary producers convert only 1% of the energy in the sunlight available to them into NPP. So producers, primary consumers, secondary consumers, then tertiary consumers, then 10,000. So it was like uh, first at the it is 10 lakh, and then it is 1% only. So 1% of it, that is 1% of it is, that is only 10,000. So only 1% of it is available to the with the in like the producers. So 10,000, then primary consumers feed on them, so it is 1,000 only, then 100, then 110. So only 10% is being converted. So any calculations of energy content, biomass, or numbers has to include all organisms at that level, at that trophic level. Okay, any calculations of energy content, biomass, or numbers has to include all organisms, at that trophic level. So no generalizations we will be true if we take only a few individuals at any trophic level into account. Also given, okay, so all type of organisms must be included in the trophic level to study it. Okay, also given organism may occupy more than one trophic level simultaneously, like such as sparrow. One must remember that a trophic level represents a functional level, not a species as such. A given species may occupy more than one trophic level in the same ecosystem at the same time. For example, a sparrow is a primary consumer when it eats seeds, fruits, peas, and secondary consumer when it eats insects and worms. So same. Okay, a sparrow is a primary consumer when it eats seeds. It is a primary consumer when it eats seeds, fruits, and peas, and secondary consumer when it eats insects and worms. So sparrow is a secondary consumer when it eats insects and worms. Can you work out for how many trophic levels human beings function at in a food chain? Can you work out how many trophic levels human beings function at in a food chain? How many trophic levels human beings function at in a food chain? Maybe 3 or 4. In most ecosystem, all the pyramid of number of energy and biomass are upright. So in most ecosystems, all the pyramids of number of energy and biomass are upright. That is, producers are more in number and biomass than the herbivores, and herbivores are more in number and biomass than the carnivores. So producers are more in number than the herbivores, and herbivores are more in number than the carnivores. So also energy at a lower trophic level is always more than at a higher level. Also energy at a lower trophic level is always more than at a higher level. Okay, because the energy keeps on decreasing on each successive tropic level. Okay, so there are expectations to this generalization. Like if we were to count the number of insects feeding on a big tree, what kind of pyramid would you get? It is inverted. Now add an estimate of the number of small birds depending on the insects, as also the number of larger birds eating the smaller. Draw the shape you would get. Add an estimate of the number of small birds depending on the insects, as also the number of larger birds, as also the number of larger birds eating the smaller. Draw the shape you would get. And also the number of larger birds eating the smaller. Okay, number of small birds depending on the insects, and as also the number of larger birds eating the smaller. So there are first insects and then small birds and then there are like large birds. Okay, so it is definitely spindle. It is not inverted, not upright. The pyramid of biomass in scene is generally inverted because the biomass of the species biomass of the fishes far exceeds that of phytoplankton, because turnover is get. Isn't that a paradox? How would you explain this? Pyramid of energy is always upright, can never be inverted, because when energy flows from a particular tropic level to the next tropic level, some energy is always lost as heat at each step. Okay, each bar in the energy pyramid indicates the amount of energy present at each tropic level in a given time, or annually per unit minute, per unit area. Okay, however, there are certain limitations of ecological pyramids, such as it does not take into account the same species belonging to two or more tropic levels. Okay, it does not take into account the same species belonging to two or more tropic levels. It does not take into account the same species belonging to two or more tropic levels. Example is the sparrow. It can be a primary consumer, then it can be a secondary consumer at the same time. So it is not accounted in the ecological pyramid. So this can be the limitation, right? Now it assumes a simple food chain, right? Something that almost never exists in nature. It does not accommodate a food web. So it does not accommodate a food web which is actually present in the nature. So moreover, sapropods are also not given any place in ecological pyramids, even though they play a vital role in ecosystems. Sapropods like fungi and bacteria, which are almost the decomposers, which are very important, it's still not included. So this is why. Okay, and in the summary part, we already have covered the first paragraph. Now the second paragraph: the productivity, decomposition, energy flow, and nutrient cycling are the four important components of an ecosystem. Okay, now primary productivity is the rate of capture of solar energy or biomass production of the producers. Okay, now it is divided in two types: gross primary productivity, total net primary productivity. Rate of capture of solar energy or total production of organic matter is called as GPP, that is gross primary productivity. NPP, that is NPP, net primary productivity, is the remaining biomass or the energy left after utilization of producers. Okay, now secondary productivity is the rate of assimilation of food energy by the consumers. So secondary productivity is the rate of assimilation of food energy by the consumers. Of food energy by the consumers, right? This is the secondary productivity. Now in decomposition, complex organic compounds of detritus are converted to carbon dioxide, water, and inorganic nutrients by the decomposers. So decomposition involves three processes, namely fragmentation of detritus, leaching, and catabolism, right? Energy flow is unidirectional. First, plants capture solar energy, and then food is transferred from the producers to decomposers. Organisms of different trophic levels in nature are connected to each other for food or energy. Right? Food or energy relationship forming a food chain. The storage and the movement of nutrient elements through the various components of the ecosystem is called nutrient cycling. Nutrients are repeatedly used during this process. Nutrient cycling is of two types, that is gaseous, sedimentary. Atmosphere or hydrosphere is the reservoir for the gaseous type of cycle, that is carbon, whereas Earth's crust is a reservoir for sedimentary type, that is phosphorus. Now products of ecosystem processes are named as ecosystem services. Example is purification of air and water by forest. So this your chapter is done.